the dead. Burn them, bury them, it doesn't matter. They all come to me. But why keep them here when I can burn the living with the dead?
What's up, everyone? It's Area of Effect with another out-of-the-box build. My first subclass build release. I've got several more on the way. Necromancer base with some DK and Templar. Let's take a look at the stats screen. We've got over 30,000 max health, insane recovery. Look at that Magicka recovery. And about 4,000 weapon and spell damage. Look at that penetration, almost 15k. Decent resistances. Could go up a little bit on the resistances, and we'll talk about options. But the back bar is sword and board, and there's plenty more survivability built into this build than just straight damage mitigation based on your physical and spell resistances. We'll get into those later. We are using the Smoked Bear Haunch. Triple recoveries on that with a big chunk of max health. Very expensive, but if you want, you could use Jewels of Misrule. You just get a little more bang for your buck on the Smoked Bear. The Mundus is the Atronach. It's what I felt like we needed on this build to keep that Magicka going, heals up and whatnot. And we've got, the Tripods are going to give us the major intellect, fortitude, and endurance as we're using the Tripods. Like I said, you can use the Jewels of Misrule. You get a little less out of it, but it's still a good replacement substitute for the Smoked Bear if you don't have it. And again, like I said, the Tripods right there, max health, Magicka, and stamina. We are a Necromancer at base. We wanted those Gravelord passives for damage over time bonuses and a couple of the skills like the Flaming Skull and the Blast Bones that is sacrificial. Restoring Light from the Templar and Ardent Flame from the DK. Lots of flame damage bonus there going on. This is a super great combo of classes. Ricochet Skull, nice Flame Skull. I'm not going to go over the tooltips as we're not really buffing up right now. We're just showcasing some of the passives. A lot of penetration, a lot of damage over time bonus. Look at that, 10% more. And we got a lot of dots going on. This is going to buff all of them. Critical Strike increase with Death Knell, which is just fantastic when they're below 33% health. Some good cost reduction passives. We got Restoring Light passives and Ardent Flame. You can't go without this. Increases the damage of your burning and poison status effects by 33%. And the recoveries you get Magicka and stamina from both. Increases the flame and poison, specifically flame on this build, by 5% more. Combine that with the engulfing flame skill, which is going to give us more, like 5 to 6% more, which we will cover that. And then restoring focus, one of the best major resolve sources in the game with recovery and healing, and just plenty of tankiness from this. Increased healing, ultimate generation, and even more reduced block cost by 10% from that Templar skill, and we get some of that from the sword and board passives as well. We are an orc. We get that max stam by an additional 1,000. Can't go wrong with that in PvP. Max health by 1,000. Also can't go wrong with that. I love the 2168 health every 4 seconds when you deal damage. Just a constant healing. Weapon and spell damage by 258, and the cost of sprint goes down by 12%, and the movement speed of sprint is 10% faster. So a lot of mobility on this build. I've said it before, Orc is my favorite for PvP. Now, let's get into the gear. We're rocking the Maelstrom's Perfected Inferno Staff. We get that penetration, and we get that additional penetration. Funny thing is, I'm not actually using the Blockade. You could, as an option, put it in place of one of the skills I have. But you could also use the Vatashran. You could use the Masters. Any two-piece, really, that you want to go with if you're going to use that skill and you kind of have a play style where you love that skill. Black Rose for the Wild Impulse, whatever you want. But I'm using the Maelstrom. I'm not using the Blockade, but you could put Blockade in there in place of the skill. We're using a two-piece monster set. I played around with this, but I liked Grothdar, max Magicka, and then when you deal damage, basically an 8 meter to an enemy within 8 meters, 10% chance you're going to create a lava pool. It's going to swirl around you. There it is. And again, I'm not really buffed up here a whole lot, but get a little bit of buffing going on. But it's going to last for 5 seconds, and it's going to hit all enemies around you. And I'm telling you, wait till you see the other combos to this set. It's going to take this a lot further, make it a lot stronger. Starting with Draugr, one of my favorite sets in the game. I think it's overlooked. Max Mag, penetration, Magicka recovery. Increase your damage by 322, but reduce your healing by 10%. Now, we got plenty of healing, buffing, and feedback into healing back to us. But that 10%, we don't really feel that. I mean, a little bit, but not much. But that additional 300 plus damage It ends up being way more than that when you factor in scaling, when you factor in certain like weapon and spell damage buffs. And I'll show this to you later. I'll break down after the gear portion just the increase that Draugr will give you. The next 5-piece set is Flame Blossom. Really good stats with a penetration, weapon and spell damage, but 9100 flame damage at base. That could go up a bit. Here's going to launch out. You'll see it ripped through there. It actually dealt, I think it was 12,000. I didn't catch it, but it registers as a damage over time number for some reason. And we got that on our back bar. Sword and Board of Flame Blossom. So it procs immediately when we switch to that back bar. There, I switched to it. Check it out. There it goes. Yeah, and 12,676, I think it was the crit hit. It hits all the enemies in the area, continues through them, as you'll see here, and then gives them the burning status effect. All of that's going to be increased by Draugr as well. Each tick of every individual thing. You got a lot of dots going on. Every number you see is going to end up being buffed by Draugr. So that 300 and something, which by the way ends up being more than that when you scale it up, ends up being, you know, times 6 or 7 or 8 dots that you have on them. They're each getting that 300. So Flame Blossom necklace, Flame Blossom ring. You can see how the jewelry's laid out here. Magicka recovery on 2, stam recovery on 1. And like I said, Sword and Board back bar really helps us feel a bit tankier, gives us some damage mitigation, some block mitigation, block cost reduction passives. And yeah, so now Draugr, I'm going to break this down a little further. 322 additional damage, but reduces your healing by 10%. Now look at this. Grothdar is 1540, okay? So I'll take off Draugr, put on a single belt of Cinders of Anthelmere, whatever you call it. Now this goes down to 1093. That was more, right around 322. It's a little bit more. But then you got to think in like major brutality, major sorcery, 20%. When you get flat numbers and you take percentages of them, the bigger they are, the bigger you get. So now I'm 1308 with major resolve, major sorcery and major brutality. Okay, now I put on the Draugr right here, 2114 flame damage. It took it up that extensively. Yes, I procced my Berserker glyph and I had this major sorcery and brutality, but it takes it up to almost double because of scaling. All right, let's go to the skills now. Ricochet Skull, almost 8,000 flame damage, but I love the third cast. I mean, look, we throw like a flaming skull, and it's buffed by pretty much everything we do, engulfing flames, which we haven't got to yet. But I wanted to show the ricochet effect. So when you cast the third skull, it bounces 1, 2, you'll see it bounce to all 3 of them. Ready? Bam, bam, bam. We could take this further though, and we can end up, there's a second, here's a third, right here. Bounced to all 3 different targets. Now I didn't get crit hits, I didn't debuff them, I didn't engulfing flame them, I haven't casted my sacrificial bones and whatnot. So I could take this damage even further, 15,000 there. But if you end up casting sacrificial bones right here, which I'm going to skip to, which usually I don't do, it increases your damage over time abilities by 15% and your Necromancer abilities by 15%. Well, guess what? That skull is a Necromancer ability. It's going to increase by 15%. But also, your third cast of your skull will be an AoE. So watch. It's going to ricochet and it's going to AoE on the first hit too. Here comes the third one right here. All 3 of them got hit. Bounce, bounce. Look at this. 1, 2. All 3 of them get hit right here. Boom, bounce, bounce. And you can start throwing your next skull while the last one is still bouncing like this. And just look at these skulls just bouncing and AoEing. That is insane. Ricochet skull with sacrificial bones, and then the flame buff damage, and then Draugr, it's absolutely insane. The Dragon Knight passes are going to give you 5% more damage. Engulfing Flame is going to give you 5 to 6% more damage. The Necromancer Sacrificial Bones gives you 15% more damage, let alone the bouncing in the AoE. The next skill, Flames of Oblivion, a Dragon Knight skill. Cast 3 fireballs. It's very cheap. They go out automatically. You could spam them. You can see you could spam them and get more, but they'll basically send themselves out every 5 seconds. And while this is slotted on either bar, you have constant major savagery and major prophecy, increasing their crit chance by a lot. So great skill. Engulfing Flames is the next one. Dragon Knight skill. Up front 6189, then additional 23,000 over 24 seconds. But then look at the current value in the bottom was listed at 6%. While you have an enemy afflicted with this, they'll take 6% more damage from all of your flame abilities. Your Ricochet Skull, your Grothdar, your Flames of Oblivion. It goes on. And it's just absolutely insane. The next skill is Restoring Focus. It's a Templar skill, the only one we actually have in this bar. We use the one that costs stamina. Restores stamina, gives us major resolve and major ward, restores 242 stamina every second, and 793 health unbuffed every second while we're anywhere. But if we stand in the rune, we get, I think it was 200% more or 150% more. It's a lot more potent, that healing. So obviously it's not good to stay in stupid, so you don't have to stay in it, but it's nice when you can. The next skill on this bar, we already covered Sacrificial Bones. I have Flame Ultimate, 85, 87 every second for 7 seconds. Absolutely insane. I want to add, this comes from the Inferno Staff, but I want to add that the Inferno Staff passives also increase damage over time by 12%, and the status effects by 12%. So additional dot damage. So Necromancer 10%, all the dots in this build, all the dots that come from the DK, and the Inferno Staff damage over time buff, and Sacrificial Bones damage over time buff, and Draugr. The next skill on the other bar is Binding Burst. It's going to immobilize the enemies instantly. It's going to give them a damage over time. It's only going to be Magicka versus Flame. I wish it'd be Flame, but I want that immobilization instantly, and it gives us our major sorcery and major brutality. The next skill, Resolving Vigor, it's 15,000, could crit over 5 seconds, and our minor resolve and minor ward. It's our 15,000 healing. Costs stamina, so it's easy to rotate between Magicka and stamina healing, and it's a nice little hot. So you get that for 5 seconds there. All right, buff up here. The next skill we have is Flame Lash, 7349 flame damage, knocks them off balance immediately, and then immediately will become Power Lash. That's why I use the Immobilize, because as soon as I cast Binding Burst, they're immobilized, so I instantly get that Power Lash. And that I can't immobilize these guys, they're immune. But immediately that Power Lash is bigger damage, it's cheaper, and it heals you pretty substantially, and you can just whip, and then nay. I actually said that. I should edit that out. We're going to keep rolling. Got to have a Lava Whip on a Necromancer. Healing Soul is the next skill, 9272. It's just for you, but you can heal others. Restores Magicka and stamina, and it gives us our major vitality, which will increase our damage shields and healing by 12%, which really helps to offset that 10% from Draugr penalty. So we're still plus 2% there. So that helps us take care of that problem. Burning Embers, I can't talk enough about this one. Probably my favorite skill with this setup. 3,843 damage up front, 25,000 flame damage over 24 seconds, but you heal for 102% of the damage done with this ability. And you can have more than one instance of this. 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to heal from all that every second. Now here's the cool thing, or every 2 seconds, sorry. But here's the cool thing. The damage done by it is increased by Draugr by almost double. And I've tested this with a few people. Avid Necro is one of them. And anyway, it increases your healing received back. It's like you're double dipping. Draugr causes Burning Embers to be kind of unfair. Next skill, Temporal Guard, constant minor protection at all times. And basically, if you're in a bind, you want to rewind your resources and your position, you could cast this and you'll end up where you were 4 seconds ago with the resources you had 4 seconds ago. And I can run around the corner here, take these people out, up there behind this dodge roll. But yeah, that's that one. And passively, as you block, because of the Psijic passives, you get an extra damage shield. That was that sphere around me. All right, let's jump into the CP distribution now. Fighting Finesse, 8% more critical damage done, and 8% more critical healing received. Biting Aura increases the damage done with Area of Effect attacks by 6%. Most of what we do is Area of Effect. Damage over time, Thaumaturge, 6%. Everything we're doing pretty much except for the skull is damage over time. And Untamed Aggression, can't beat a flat 115 weapon and spell damage, increases our damage and increases our heals, obviously. You could switch this around a little bit, but that's just my recommendation there. For the red trees, we've got Sustained by Suffering, an additional 150 magicka health and stamina recovery while you're under the influence of a negative effect, which is going to be all the time. It could be a dot, it could be a debuff. Rejuvenation, another 90 magicka health and stamina recovery at all times. 1,731 armor from Fortified, increasing our physical and spell resistance, and more max health. Well, that's going to wrap up the CP distribution and wrap up this build video, the Infernomancer, Area of Effects first subclassed released build. I've got several more on the way, and I cannot wait to show you. Some of you guys have probably already seen them out there, going from suck to get f***ed. Okay, did I have to say that? My mom's probably ashamed. But it is what it is. I said it. We're not editing it. You got to roll with the punches, baby. All right, there's his butt. Pan out. Love it. Epic music. Area of Effect. Signing out.